So thank you everyone for being here. Lorraine Lee, class of 2008, is here to talk to us all about LinkedIn and growing our presence on there, having a stronger presence. Lorraine is a global keynote speaker and instructor for Stanford Continuing Studies and LinkedIn Learning. And she works with Fortune 100 companies, global teams, individuals to really help them supercharge their professional presence. So I know alums who are watching this live or recorded are really going to benefit from hearing all of your great insight. Lorraine is recognized as a LinkedIn top voice and has more than 300,000 LinkedIn followers and 10 years of experience leading editorial teams at top tech firms. She was named a top virtual speaker by Read Write and a top 15 LinkedIn expert in San Francisco by Influence Digest. She's also a founding editor at Prezi, SlideShare, and LinkedIn, and has been featured in publications, including Inc., Read Write, and Entrepreneur. So I'm so excited to have Lorraine here today. I know you're going to have a lot of great information for us. So please get started. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Natalie, and hello, everyone. Thank you for showing up on time. Hello, Angela, Bella, Gayatri. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. If not, phonetically correct me. Julia and Kathleen. It is so lovely to see you all today. So I am so excited to talk about how we are going to build our presence on LinkedIn. And I'm going to kick it off with a question for all of you. So I'd love for you to share with me in the chat what is currently your biggest challenge on LinkedIn? Is there something specific that you're hoping to take away from the session today? So throw it in the chat. Some ideas might be you're looking to build thought leadership. You want to make sure you're representing yourself in the best light. Maybe you're trying to drive more leads to your business. Maybe you've created your LinkedIn, haven't touched it for years. That's okay too. And you're like, what is the latest? What should I be doing on LinkedIn? That's a totally great answer as well. Or maybe it's something else. So throw it in the chat. Why are you here today? Is there a specific challenge that you are facing on LinkedIn or something specific that you are hoping to learn? So this will help me.
Jump
Oh,
in. Sorry, the chat isn't working for some reason. So if,
oh,
if that's disabled for any guests, go ahead and throw it in the Q&A and we'll check it there. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
no worries. Thank you. All right, let me head over to the Q&A. Yeah, so as Natalie said, just throw your answers in the Q&A, and so I can just get a sense of the group here and what you're interested in learning about for LinkedIn, and also if you want to share your sort of engagement levels with LinkedIn right now. And again, if you literally haven't touched it for years, that's okay too. So one anonymous member says, I'm generally shy on social media and don't like public posts. That's okay. We'll be talking about some ways that maybe you can work around that. Julia says that I'm a lurker on LinkedIn, but would love to start engaging, not sure how to do it and what info is valuable. That's a great first step. Lurking on LinkedIn, you see the value out there, and I'm really glad that you are looking to dive in. So I will be giving you some best practices, some tips to do that as well. So thank you both for sharing. So let's dive in, right? So why does it matter to build a presence on LinkedIn? So some of you have touched on it with your answers, right? You might build thought leadership, which helps you be looked upon favorably, both in and outside of your company. Maybe you become more competitive and valuable to organizations during good and tough times. And of course, it's going to be one of the best places to find new opportunities and new jobs. So over the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to talk about some ways to help you build your presence on LinkedIn. We're going to be doing some hands-on activities throughout in a workbook that I created for you all, and then we'll save a few minutes at the end for a Q&A. Oops. So I want to start off sharing a few statistics that really illustrate the power of this platform and show the opportunity that lies ahead for all of you, right? So for anyone who is looking for a job, every 8 minutes, someone is hired through LinkedIn. For anyone like Julia who's looking to become a thought leader, maybe post some content on the platform, out of LinkedIn's now 1 billion members, only around 3 million users currently share content on a weekly basis, which is about 1% of its monthly users. So there's a lot of opportunity that lies there for us. And then for anyone who's trying to do business on LinkedIn, 82% of buyers will look up a seller on LinkedIn before they reply to a seller's prospecting efforts. Now, even if you're not a seller, I think we've all had that experience, right? Where someone messages us on LinkedIn, we're like, who is this person? Are they legit? So we'll go to their profile to assess. So whether you're in sales or not, LinkedIn is really that online landing page, that online presence that people judge us on. So how are we going to set ourselves up for success so that we can reap all of this amazing opportunity here? Well, today we'll be covering 3 key areas for your LinkedIn. We're going to talk about optimizing your profile, creating content, and then the best way to leverage relationships. So optimizing your profile, this is really the foundation of your LinkedIn, right? Again, LinkedIn is your online landing page, so it's really key that we build this up and build a presence there. And the great thing is when you complete your profile, you become 40% more likely to get found and receive more opportunities. So a huge jump when we can optimize our profile. Now, what does optimizing our profile entail? So there's 4 things that I like to talk about when it comes to our profiles. The first, our headlines, one of the most important pieces, and I want to make sure that also within our headline, we focus on our mission and value statements. A background photo is really critical as well. And then, of course, we have to write a compelling about. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. Of course, there are many other things that go into a strong profile, like a good profile picture and a complete experience section, but we only have so much time today. So for today's session, we're going to be focusing on our headlines and our background photos. So let's dive into our headlines here. The first thing you'll want to do is to create a really strong headline. So what you see here was a before, right? This is what you see on a lot of people's profiles. Job title at company. And people are very literal with it, and they write, what their current role is. But there is so much more you can and should include in your headlines. First of all, we're all more than our job titles, right? But LinkedIn actually gives you 220 characters, up from 120, I think it was before, to fill out your headline. So I recommend including at least 3 to 4 phrases to describe what you do and what you want to be known for, not only to help others understand your role, but to add more keywords into your headline, because keywords are really critical for LinkedIn search. So let's say you are in marketing right now, but you want to make a career pivot to data science, you definitely should be including the keyword data science in your headline. So a format like this is going to be really helpful to follow. Job title, you're going to want to include some keywords, and then a mission and value statement. So let's look at my new and improved headline. All right, so there's a lot more information here, right? Corporate keynote speaker and trainer, LinkedIn Learning, Stanford Continuing Studies instructor, ex-LinkedIn, Prezi, and then my mission statement, helping you supercharge your professional presence, both how and where you're seen. So you just learned a lot more about me than just my job title at company. Let's look at a few more examples here. So my friend Jean Kang, she put her mission statement up top. I help you to land your next program manager job without a PMP. She's a 10-star Maven instructor, so we know she's teaching. She is, or was, was until recently, senior program manager at Figma. So she had her role at company. And then she shows that she's pivoted her career 7 times, right? 7 times pivoter. So I'm learning something about just her career story. And then for added credibility, ex-LinkedIn, Meta, Pinterest. So if any of you have worked at companies that others might recognize, I do encourage you to add that into your headline to give people a more holistic idea of your professional experience. And then for those of you who might be posting content, she has here follow for project and career tips. So some sort of call to action or description of what it is exactly you talk about might be helpful. This next example here, my friend Jess, she's a senior data analyst at Crunchbase. Her company is called Big Data Energy, and she's a LinkedIn Learning instructor. And then you see she has 3 keywords here: data, SQL, and career. So super clear what she's going to be talking about. And if anyone is searching for someone who knows data and someone who talks about career tips, Jess's profile is going to pop up. So we just talked through a few examples. Natalie, if you wouldn't mind sending the workbook through the chat or the Q&A. I want us to take a few minutes to practice a before and after for our LinkedIn headlines. And if you feel comfortable, I would love for you to share your new and improved version. So it does not have to be 100%. I am constantly tweaking my headline as well to assess, like, is this leading to more search results? things like that. But this is just a really good exercise to start thinking through, okay, what might I want to elaborate on in my current headline, and to start thinking through all the professional experiences that you've had. So if you can click on the link that Natalie sent through the chat, you can make a copy of that workbook, and you can keep this for yourself after the session today. But I have some helpful prompts that get you thinking about what you might include in your new headline, and then I would love for all of you to share in the chat if you feel comfortable. And again, does not need to be perfect, but I'll set the timer for, let's say, 4 minutes. And again, just throw it into the chat when you are done. I'll give you a few minutes to think on this, and then any questions, just let me know in the chat. And I'm just revisiting the Q&A now. I see another anonymous attendee asks, what is the best verbiage to use to make new connections? And we will be talking about that. So we'll be covering everything that all of you have posted about. Thank you for sharing. And I see another question coming through. Thank you. We'll be sure to answer all of those at the end. I do get a lot of questions about AI profile pictures, so we can definitely talk about that. Give everyone 1 more minute to come up with your headlines. Again, if you have something ready, I encourage you to please share, throw it in the chat. We will all get inspiration from it, and then we can also give each other some feedback. All right. Anyone want to share in the chat what they came up with for their new and improved headline? It'd be great if you can share your old headline and then share your new one if you feel comfortable. And again, these are constantly works in progress. I still tweak mine every now and then. So there's always an opportunity to change in the future. But if you feel comfortable sharing, actually, Natalie, can people, maybe I think it's still Q&A for everyone. Oh yeah, okay. All right, thank you. Anonymous attendee, current building brands at the Garcia Companies updated. Brand builder at the Garcia Companies, MPS branding candidate 25 at SVA, Inner City Arts Board member, XFI, Soho House, want to include something about creative projects and creative direction, but don't know what I would focus on. What you have already is excellent. I would do the character count because I think it might be getting kind of close to that limit. But I think what you have is really excellent, and I love the ex Soho House. I mean, I don't know much about the work that you're in, but to me, like I recognize that. I'm like, oh, okay, that's like a lot of credibility there. So thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share what they came up with? Again, judgment-free zone. We're just supporting each other, getting ideas. I'll give it 10 more seconds for someone to type something in, and if not, we will move on. I hope you all take advantage of these live feedback moments. All right. No worries. If you want to type it into here later, we can revisit some feedback during Q&A. All right, so next I want to talk about background photos. And background photos, I like to describe them as your billboard, right? They're literally at the top of your profile. They are the biggest piece of visual real estate that you have. They kind of look like a billboard, right? But so many people are neglecting their billboards. And this is what I see most often. So this is LinkedIn's generic background photo. It means you didn't choose one yourself, right? LinkedIn is just filling it in for you. When I see this, I think, oh, their profile is not really complete. They kind of don't really care about how they're coming across. Or sometimes people do include photos like this, but it's a nature shot. And I'm like, again, I'm still not really learning anything about you through this image, right? Unless you're a photographer and you took this photo, but most people are not. So I'm not really getting anything from you, right? And your billboard is such a wonderful place for you to talk about what it is you do and who you are. So I want us to look at a few more examples of really great billboards. So this first one here, I showed my example of Jean earlier, my friend Jean. You can see here she is promoting this one product that she wants people to download. I think this is connected to her email newsletter, but it's very clear the value that she provides. And a very simple design as well. Now, my friend Terry Rice, he has a little bit more to his billboard. You actually see a picture of him, right, in the background. You see him speaking to an audience. So from this, I learned that he does some speaking. I learned a little bit more about what he does, time to build your revenue, reputation, and resilience. He makes it super clear where to start, right? So if any of you have a portfolio, maybe you link to that. He has some keywords, consulting, keynotes, brand partnerships, and then a very clear call to action, how to reach him, DM him. And then some added credibility with some logos. And again, both are very different, both work. Jean is now a solopreneur. Before she was at a company and she still had that as her background photo. So it just depends on what your goals are. Maybe it's just very simple, your name and a few keywords of areas that you're passionate about. That totally works as well. Now, one more example I want to show is Lori Richardson. So she's a member of this organization, called Women Sales Pros. And she's essentially using her billboard as a advertisement for this organization instead of her own personal brand. So that's always an option as well, especially if you are, for example, a company owner. But through all these examples, you can see there's just a lot of room for creativity here beyond those generic stock photos that we saw earlier. And again, it's one of the biggest pieces of real estate. I want to make sure that you are really taking advantage of that. Now, some of you might be thinking, okay, I'm not a designer though, so how do I design one? Well, I have this helpful resource for all of you, lorrainekaylee.com/background photo. So I think there's 10 free templates that you can use, and you can just make small tweaks to them and then upload them to your LinkedIn. So if you're a little bit unsure about the design element, I had a designer create these. I'm not so much a designer myself, so I encourage you all to check these out. All right, and with that, we have covered two key parts of our profile. So we talked about elaborating on our headlines and designing a background photo. So I'm curious to know, back to the Q&A, between these two, which one are you interested in tackling first? Elaborating on your headline or designing a background photo? Which one is speaking to you? Which one are you excited to update first? Whoever this anonymous attendee is who sent in the headline, you're already, 3/4 of the way there. So maybe that's an easy one for you. Yep, already updated my headline. Excellent. Background photo, starting with the easiest first. Excellent. Okay, we have another headline here. Before, people, strategy, HR. After, HR leader passionate about empowering employees to drive innovation and cultivate exceptional company culture. Oh my gosh, I love it. So the first headline, you have some nice keywords there, right? But the second one, you still have the keywords, and now I actually know a little bit more about what you do. And I think there's still space to add those additional keywords if you'd like. The strategy and maybe like people leader could be one. Thank you for sharing. All right, amazing. Well, next up, let's talk about creating content on the platform. So content is such an important piece of LinkedIn. We talked about how the profile is really the foundational piece, while content are really those additional building blocks that really help you stand out and stay top of mind. Now, the thing about content is I think a lot of people get nervous because they think, oh, I have to be a content creator or I have to be an influencer to be posting content. Not true at all. You can be a regular, person working your 9 to 5 job and still post content because again, it helps you stay top of mind. It helps you develop your thought leadership and it helps really open the door to a lot of new opportunities that you might not have expected. For example, you can get interviewed for articles or people reach out to interview on podcasts or for speaking gigs, right? So a lot of opportunity can come from that. Now, the thing about LinkedIn is the platform has really shifted. So we talked about obviously before how it's a really great platform for searching for jobs, for finding jobs, but now the platform has also transformed to be really centered around content, community, and conversations. Now, earlier I mentioned that 3 million stat, right? 3 million people posting content on LinkedIn, but that's out of 1 billion members. So even though you might see a lot of content on LinkedIn, there's still that really great opportunity to stand out. Now I'm curious to hear from the group. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you've posted on LinkedIn before. And if you feel like sharing, let me know, what exactly have you posted about? Has it been company updates, company launches, something specific to you, a promotion, for example? What have you shared on LinkedIn before? Or if you haven't shared, that's fine too.
Lorraine, can you share the link in the chat to the banner templates?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, I might have missed that link sending it to you.
No worries, I can type it out. Thank you.
You're typing it, Natalie, so I don't have to paste. Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you. All right. All right, I'm guessing, I'm gonna just assume because no one has given me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Maybe it's mostly thumbs down. That's okay. All right, so oops, let me go back here. Okay, all right, so no worries, that's most people, right? So I'm gonna give you some tools and frameworks to help you think through content and get a little bit more comfortable with it. So what does sharing content entail? Commenting, content formats, content topics, and composing a post. So for today's session, we're going to be talking about commenting and content formats. Now, before we dive into that, I want to just go back in time to when content first got introduced on the platform. So years ago, when I first started at LinkedIn, initially access to posting content was only open to a group of LinkedIn influencers. So these were often executives, CEOs at Fortune 500 companies. And I was there when we were just launching the article functionality to this group, which feels like so long ago. And over the years, as I worked on the influencer program, people would come to me and they would say, oh, Lorraine, how do I get into the influencer program? These are the people who kind of get the most engagement. But it wasn't the case, actually. Contrary to popular belief, it wasn't the influencers getting the most engagement. It was the people like me, the people like you, who are being very consistent, regularly sharing their thoughts, and engaging with their commenters and followers, right? Not just posting content, just leaving it, forgetting about it, but actually engaging and creating relationships in a community. So how do we become one of those people who gets lots of engagement? Well, the first thing I want you to think about is stepping up your commenting game. I know someone in the chat had mentioned that they wanted to get more involved posting. Well, commenting is a really great place to start. Commenting, I always like to say, it's a lot lower stakes than making a post from your name, right? It's kind of buried in underneath someone else's posts, but it's still super important. When you comment on other people's posts, you gain followers, you share your thought leadership, you hone your voice a little bit more, right? And you can really build relationships. Some of my best friends, biggest supporters have come through LinkedIn comments, which is crazy. So just know that this is a really great way to create content. Comments are still content. And as I said before, LinkedIn is really focused on content, community, and conversations. So Commenting is a really great way to show that you're engaging on the platform. It helps your post when you, if and when you do end up posting, helps boost them a little bit more in the algorithm, because the algorithm now knows you are someone who's contributing to the platform and providing value. But what exactly goes into a good comment? There's actually a strategy behind this. So this is what I see most often, right? I agree, well said, thanks for sharing, congratulations. If you know the person, I think that's okay every now and then to add comments like this. You just want to show support. But these are not the best comments, because similar to the billboard, what is this really telling me about you? Nothing, right? So how might we make small tweaks to make this stand out a little bit more and to really show your expertise? So I agree with you here. I'd also add, LinkedIn isn't just a place for jobs. Your whole professional brand and identity is represented here. So you can see here, I'm adding a little bit of my own insight. I have at least 15 words of content. This is sort of a benchmark, I like to say. 15 words can kind of signal that you're adding something of value, adding something qualitative beyond, the 2 or 3 word comments. Now, here's some frameworks that can help you start thinking about, okay, how exactly do I create a helpful comment? So this first one here is one that I use a lot. I agree or I disagree with you. I'd also add point 1, point 2, point 3, and I would actually use these emojis as well because it makes it easier to scan. You might ask a question back. So, oh, interesting point. What do you think about this perspective? Or have you heard this perspective? And this way you're actually creating some back and forth when the person responds to you. And then one other framework, I had a similar experience, and then you share a little bit more about that experience. So people kind of feel like they know you a little bit more, and authenticity, genuine stories really do quite well on LinkedIn. So this is another framework that you can think about. Now, next, I want you to start getting familiar with all the different content formats, because the good news is there's a lot. So we have something that can work for all of us, but there are quite a few to sort of keep in mind. So the first one is that there are text-only posts. I would say these are probably some of the most common ones that you see on LinkedIn. Text and a link, so you're having text, but maybe sharing out to an article, for example. Text and an image, and these tend to get 2 times the number of comments. So you'll see a lot of people posting selfies. I wouldn't say, post selfies all the time, but a picture that's sort of related. For example, when I do speaking engagements, I will post a picture of me speaking, and that kind of catches people's eye in the feed, and also, again, adds that human touch. They see me in action. Video is becoming super popular on LinkedIn, so if you feel comfortable with video, I would encourage you to experiment with video. LinkedIn is really favoring vertical cell phone videos, and if you go into your LinkedIn app, you will see there's a video tab now, so there's an opportunity for you to be featured there if you post video. Articles and newsletters. So if you're someone who likes a little bit longer form writing, this might be a really nice option for you. And one of the great things about newsletters is that when you create a new newsletter, it will let your whole entire network and all your followers know. So that's a really great way to grow a following for your content. And then each time you publish a subsequent newsletter in that, article in that newsletter, everyone gets notified who's subscribed. And they also sometimes, if their settings are turned on, they get emailed that newsletter. So that's a really just great way, when sort of reach can sometimes be difficult, to make sure that you are reaching who you want to reach. And then documents and carousel. So for the visual people in the audience, you've probably seen those where you kind of swipe and you see the different slides. That can work really well too. And then last but not least, polls. This is a really nice one as well if you are sort of dipping your toe into the content world, because polls are very easy to create and very easy for people to engage with, right? So it can kind of get you comfortable putting your voice out there and then making sure that you get engagement from your audience. All right, so we are going to practice now in our workbook again, commenting. And I shared those frameworks before, I can go back to it, but I've given you many different links of posts I have made in the past, and I want you to practice writing a comment, a response to it. If you don't like any of the posts I've put in there, just go into your LinkedIn feed and find another one if there's someone you follow and really admire, or they talk about topics that you're passionate about. But here, let me go back here. And just experiment with one of these frameworks. If none of these resonate with you, you can comment how you'd like. But I want us to just get comfortable sharing some of our thoughts and contributing and getting our name out there. So I'm going to give everyone 2 to 3 minutes to come up with a comment. And if you feel so inclined, I would love for you to post it afterwards. And if it's on one of my posts, I will be sure to respond. So put 2 minutes on the clock and we will work on our comments. All right, so we're 1 minute down, one more minute to finish up your comments. And these do not need to be perfect. There is no perfect, just write how you feel is best. All right, I'm not going to ask you to put it in the chat because it will be confusing without context. But hopefully you are happy with your comments. Hopefully I will get a notification after the session today showing that you posted, and then I will make sure to comment if you do end up doing that. So creating content, we just covered commenting and content formats. Now, last, I want to talk about leveraging relationships to build your LinkedIn presence. And someone had a question before around networking and reaching out to strangers. So that is exactly what we're going to talk about right now. So leveraging relationships typically consist of recommendations, networking, leveraging search. Today, we're going to close out talking about networking to success. Now, the thing about LinkedIn is I encourage you, I don't know if you're already doing this, but I really encourage you all to start connecting with strangers on the platform, people you have never met before. As I mentioned before, some of my best supporters, closest friends have come through LinkedIn, which is so crazy. It's either me reaching out cold, them reaching out cold because they like what I'm doing. So there's a lot of opportunity to just make relationships with really interesting, smart people. Now, the thing about reaching out is I want you to be really thoughtful and really personalized with your message. So here's one that I have used before that has worked well. Hi, name, I'm a title at company, and give a brief description of your work. I've been following your content and I found it really valuable as I look to grow my expertise on topic. I'd love to connect with you. So this is really important to have that personalized message, but this is very important. I'm going to just repeat again. The way you send this message is critical. And every session that I do talking about LinkedIn, I always emphasize this point, and there's always someone who misses it. So let's pay close attention here. We have this message. How are we going to send this message? This is going to pop up after we click connect. Now, I do not want you to click this blue button. I don't know why LinkedIn makes it seem like the right choice. Do not click the blue button. Instead, click add a note, add this note in, and then when I get your connection requests after the session today, hopefully you all connect with me on LinkedIn, I will see your message in the connection request. So I'll have context now of who you are. A lot of people, they will just click connect, they wait for the person to accept, and then they send the note. But not everyone is going to accept a cold outreach request like that, right? So being able to add the note, add something personalized goes a really long way in increasing your chances that your connection request does get accepted. You do not need a premium account for this. It's kind of a little hack because I know to send in-mails or a certain number of in-mails, you need a premium account. This costs you absolutely nothing. It's free, and so you can do this as many times with as many different people. Again, there's just a word limit, about 300 characters, I believe. So we'll have to keep it short and sweet, but there's certainly enough that you can include about yourself. I know I do this all the time. All right, so to build credibility, ask for recommendations, network leverage search, and we just covered the networking piece. And with that, we have covered the three main sections of building a LinkedIn presence, an abbreviated version. I hope you all realize and are excited. I think you all realize being here that LinkedIn really is here to stay. There's so much potential. There's so much we can do, so much opportunity that lies ahead for all of us. And I hope you feel more energized, more excited to start tackling your LinkedIn presence. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I hope you do, and you can send me that personalized connection request. This is where you can reach me or find me. I have a weekly newsletter, bite-sized tips to supercharge your career in 3 minutes or less. It is free, so feel free to subscribe at the link that Natalie is sending through. And then I have 15 LinkedIn learning courses out now that you can watch. Most of them are free nano courses, so 10 minutes or less, with a few more out on the way this year. So if you want to keep learning from me, you can do so here. I also want to ask for your feedback from this session, please. It goes a really long way in helping me know what I did well, what I might be able to change in the future. I know this was an abbreviated session, but if you fill out the feedback form, there is a LinkedIn gift waiting for you at the end. And with that, I wanted to make sure we left a few minutes for Q&A. So I know there was one question already in the Q&A section, but now's the time to add your questions in the chat, or actually in the Q&A section. I don't think people can unmute, right, Natalie?
Right.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Okay, so let's just go to the Q&A section and answer the questions there. So there was one question about using AI for your profile photo, and you see a lot of people using those. I try to not do anything AI related with my profile picture just because some of them look really good, right? And like really real. But I think it's always better to ground things in reality. And so I think we can all take nice profile pictures. It doesn't have to be in a photo studio, but even portrait mode on your phone. I think people can tell when things, it's subtle, but people can tell when things are more natural. And I sort of equated to dating apps where you don't want to look too good, like where it's not quite yourself, right? And someone sees you in person, they're, oh, this doesn't quite line up, right? So you want something that is an accurate representation of you. So I always like to say, if you can try to avoid the AI photo, I think there's plenty of ways that you can take a nice photo of yourself just with a cell phone with a friend.
I have a question.
Yeah,
I can't put it in the Q&A because I'm a host, but
sure.
for people that may not have kind of the more common, like work in the more common industries that you see on LinkedIn, like marketing or tech or entrepreneurship, like for example, I used to be a doula. Like, how would you recommend people in less common industries or professions engage with LinkedIn in a meaningful way when they feel it might not be like as professional as like other industries?
Yeah, well, I still think that is professional, but yeah, like to your
Yeah.
point, it's maybe not like tech or like the
Yeah.
corporate
Like
office
maybe not the 9 to 5
environment.
exactly, corporate. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it depends what your goals are. So I think there's definitely connections you can make. Like I have seen a lot of career coaches, for example, not necessarily help or not career coaches, but like life coaches talking about like there was one who added me the other day who is like a breathing expert, which I thought was pretty cool. And there's just sort of like more alternative, unusual professions like that. But I think it's one, if you're trying to find your community, I think using search and finding other like-minded professionals is a good way to do that. But I also think there's benefits, but not necessarily like if you were like a doula, like not necessarily related to the act of being a doula, but like, oh, like lessons you can learn running a business or things that you can share about empathy, right? Like a lot of people talk about empathy in a professional setting. So I think sort of digging a layer below and not necessarily just again like analyzing or assessing things based on a title, but like what are the skills that go within that or what are the traits that you need? I think that's a really nice way to connect and sort of make the link to a more like conventionally professional audience.
Yeah, that's super
Yeah. That's
helpful.
so cool, by the way. I didn't know that about you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Anyone else? Don't be shy. I know it's a lot of information, so sometimes people take a little bit of time to absorb. But yeah, any questions about LinkedIn? I don't know if any of you are looking for jobs. If you want to just share your experience, I think that's helpful for all of us to know as well. If any of you want to share your LinkedIn in the Q&A and connect with one another, Marlboro is obviously such an amazing network, so I would encourage you all to do that as well if you feel comfortable.
Yeah, and we also have a Marlboro alumni private group on LinkedIn, so I'll
Oh,
drop the link in the chat for that too.
yeah, please. Yeah, I think I'm part of that.
And if you don't, if anyone here also doesn't have Marlboro listed as their education history, I would love for you to add it. It's a great way for Marlboro to find alums in certain industries when we have current students asking or fellow alums hoping to network within that industry. I do my best to keep it organized, but I can really only pull off of LinkedIn if you have Marlboro listed. Otherwise, it's harder to do all that search because we have over 4,000 alums. So just wanted to share that as well.
Yeah, that's a good call out. I think a lot of people put their university, but they don't always think to put their high school or middle school. Yeah, but Marva's like such a strong name, right? Strong network. So I would definitely, yeah, encourage all of you to add it.
Yeah.
All right, we have one more question from Gayatri. Again, if I'm butchering your name, please phonetically correct me. How specific should you get with employment dates? I think as accurate as you can, because if you are applying to a new job, they are going to background check. I think if you're off like a month or two, I mean, I don't know, for whatever reason, like there was some sort of special case as you left, or maybe there was like a sabbatical or something. I think that's okay, but generally you don't want to say, oh, I worked like an extra year at a company when you weren't there that extra year. So I think as accurate as you can make it is good. I do think there is some flexibility on titles. If you're looking for a job and your title doesn't quite fit what the new role will be, I think there's no harm in tweaking slightly or making small adjustments that will better position you for that new job.
Can you give an example of that? Because I'm assuming you don't mean like change from a manager to a director, but more so maybe like within the focus of the role.
Yeah, so I had a friend who I was talking to recently. She's in graphic design. I can't remember exactly what the titles were, but it was like she just felt self-conscious about change. I think it actually was adding the word senior, but like they had signaled to her that it wasn't like that she could kind of put whatever she wanted, but
Okay.
she was like, "Oh, I don't know if I should put them." Like, put it. Like it
Right.
makes you sound like more senior, and if you are applying for new roles, like that is going to be helpful with salary negotiation and all of that. So, oh, there's like small tweaks. So, like my example, like I was what was my official title was editorial director at my last company at Prezi, and but I led the whole editorial team, so I just changed it to head of editorial, and also it aligned with what a lot of other content folks or editorial folks in tech were using, who led the whole team. So I was like, I'm just gonna tweak this and ask for permission, ask for forgiveness later if I need to. No one cared.
Yeah.
But it made me sound more senior and sort of represented like my role, I think, more accurately.
Yeah, I definitely find that with independent schools and universities too, the words advancement and development are used interchangeably and differently at different schools. So while we have the advancement office here at Marlboro, a university might have the development office. And so I can see myself in the future maybe needing to make those tweaks if I ever make a move.
Exactly.
It
Yeah.
is interesting to think of like what is the industry standard, or if there isn't one, what
Yeah,
should we use?
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Okay, well, I think we're at time now and we've got through all the questions. So yeah, thank you so much again. I hope, like, I know LinkedIn can feel like overwhelming with all the new changes that have been happening, but I hope you feel more confident after the session today. The guide on the feedback form will be really great step by step to help you, at least with the profile, right, the foundational piece. So I'm excited for all of you to get started, and just feel free to message me on LinkedIn and let me know how things are going. I would love to hear any updates from you.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. This was great, super helpful. For everyone here, it'll be saved on the Alumni Aiming High Violet seminar page on our website. So if you want to watch it again, grab the links again, anything like that, it'll be saved there for you to rewatch. Thank you again, Lorraine. I really appreciate your time and all of your expertise.
Of course, thank you, everyone.